If you're familiar with my channel, you are probably familiar with the What This Sonic Game Could Have Looked Like series that I do. And I really love doing those videos because I get to see what a game could have looked like if development went differently. But today I want to do something a bit different. If you have been in the Sonic fandom for a bit, you might have heard this name once or twice. Sonic X-Treme, the most infamous cancelled Sonic game in the series. Most of you probably know that was going to be a 3D Sonic game on the Saturn with a weird fisheye lens, but it goes way deeper into that. Today I want to talk about a bunch of the obscure stuff, the really interesting stuff. I want to talk about what Sonic X-Treme could have looked like if it ever was even released. So before we begin, I just want to say, first of all, thank y'all for 4,000 subscribers. Holy shit, we're almost there. We're almost at 5,000. So if we can get 5,000 by the end of the month, that would be crazy, man. So without further ado, let's get right into this. So really quick, I just want to talk about the development and history of the game itself. Then we can get into the meat and potatoes. So in 1995, the Sega Saturn was released, and at the same time, the Sonic series was on a roll. They just released 3 back-to-back bangers with Sonic 1, 2, 3. 4 if you include Sonic 3 and Knuckles as separate games. So they had to keep the ball rolling. So they wanted to make the next big Sonic game big. So they decided to make the jump into the third dimension. But that was easier said than done. Development for this game proved to be way more challenging than first thought. They wanted to go for this weird fisheye lens camera and have Sonic run around this weird tube thing, which the game is probably most infamous for. The game also suffered from poor management, which made it difficult to do anything and get anything done. So in order to help production, they decided to use the engine that Knights, another Sega IP, uses for its games, which has a similar type of feel. This would have helped streamline development and make it so much easier. But when the big man upstairs, Yuji Naka, got wind of this, he said that if they even thought about using the engine, he would quit Sega. I mean, it would have been sooner rather than later, I suppose. So they did not use it, and then a few months later, Sonic X-Treme would be cancelled. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. Now we get to go into the heavy stuff, the meat and potatoes, the real development stuff. Let's get to it. So something that's really cool about Sonic X-Treme is that we have a bunch of footage from prototype builds and beta builds of the game, so that's really neat. And one of the more interesting videos we see is some really early concept gameplay of X-Treme. And it features gameplay from Sonic featuring Tails in the top left corner, Knuckles, and a new character, Tiara Hold on, am I reading that right? Tiara Boobowski. Wow, okay, that was gonna be a Sonic character's name. I want to actually talk about her for a bit, because this is the first time I'm ever hearing about this character. And there's some interesting stuff here. Tiara was originally gonna be a princess, but then she was changed to being a daughter of a scientist. Then she was gonna be a love interest for Sonic. If I had a nickel for the amount of times they scrapped a love interest for Sonic, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. And yeah, I'm still in this bit from Expo. Looking at the character design, they had a bunch of different ideas. One of them was her in a set of what appears to be some type of armor, and some other designs are really questionable, to say the least. That last name Boobowski started to make a lot more sense. Jesus Christ. But eventually, they got this final design, which we can see in the gameplay demo of her. And since we're on the topic of new characters, I quickly want to talk about some really cool characters. Again, the first time I've ever hearing about this. The boss fights in this game had a really interesting concept. It looked like some of them would be different versions of Mecha Sonic. Here we got Mecha Sonic Mark 1, which just looks like Sonic, but metal. Mecha Sonic Mark 2, that starts to get a bit more complicated. Mark 3 is one of the few complete ones, and this one is badass. It's all slick and it has drills for arms. Looks really dangerous. Mark 4 is another complete one and is slimmed down and way more spikier. I also like what they did with the shoulder pads. It kind of looks like Saiyan armor. And Mark 5. I don't know what the fuck happened with Mark 5. Oh my god, what did they do to you? And the final boss seemed to be an upgraded Metal Sonic. And we even have gameplay of it, which I never knew about this. It would have been so cool if, you know, we could have had this type of concept where, like, each boss fight is a different upgraded version of Metal Sonic. If we see that in a future game, That would be really fucking cool. Also, one quick thing, it also looked like there was going to be a Knack the Weasel boss fight, and there's a few more boss fights robots here. I'm just going to put them all on screen. There's some really cool designs here, especially the Sand Guardian one. I think that's one of my favorites. Alright, back to talking about gameplay. So in this beautiful 120p video, we have Sonic in what seems to be an early version of what his gameplay used to be. Instead of tubular style and like fisheye lens, it seemed to be like they were gonna go with a more arena style instead of like a long tubular level, which I find odd. Oh my fucking god. Which I find kind of odd, especially for Sonic. But, you know, they did end up changing it anyways. We also got some gameplay of Sonic in this maze, which seems to be another type of gameplay style. This seems to be purely a test for Sonic's movement and nothing much else though. Then we cut to Knuckles, where we see him in a similar maze level to Sonic, but this time in a top-down view. Now, I don't know why Knuckles would have this top-down gameplay, especially with the nature of his character, but what is really interesting is that literally right after we get some animations and they have him animated in basically every perspective. So maybe this would have been like a specific part of his gameplay. Then we get to see Tiara's gameplay, and this is really interesting. It seemed that she was going to have traditional 2D gameplay, but it would have played with the 3D plane because she would jump from foreground to background in like different levels. This is the only gameplay we see of her though, and Knuckles. So their playstyles were probably dropped, or they just never worked on them before the game was cancelled. As we look at more concept art for the game, we can see that they might have wanted to have a different vision for it altogether. It looks like from this concept art that originally they wanted Sonic to be running around in a more traditional level. We even have one that looks way more Western themed, which could have been a really cool idea. And all around the levels they had looked completely different. They had different things like ramps, loops, all traditional Sonic stuff. This could have been a really cool idea for the game actually, instead of whatever they came up with later. And it would have possibly caused them less hassle, because then they didn't have to really worry about that whole fucking 3D Knights bullshit, right? They could have just worked on making a good 3D game. But we haven't even looked at the gameplay of the quote-unquote final ideas. So here we go. So in this gameplay, we have 4 levels that have really solid gameplay. Jade Gully, Red Sands, Crystal Frost, and the Death Egg. So let's look at Jade Gully first. And a lot of the gameplay that we see are these 2 types of levels, right? So let's look at the first one. The first one is the traditional fisheye vertical, level that we are used to, right? And it's something to note is that the game looks like it could have had a countdown instead of a traditional timer. So it looks like that you originally would have to beat the level in a certain amount of time. The level itself seems very short, taking the player only about 2 minutes to beat. Also, the levels have a really cool look to them and feel very unique. And I think that's one of the game's strong suits, that the aesthetic itself is really nice. I really like the level's look. We also have another vid of this level. This one seems to be a bit more flat and gets rid of the fisheye lens. This seems to be a prototype of the game, which adds to the idea of this game was originally going to be more traditional rather than what we have now. It looks like a just completely flat level, which again, that could have worked so much better for them. Ugh. Next up, we have Crystal Frost. Now, this level seems significantly larger, and we basically see the same type of gameplay throughout this whole game, with each level seeming to get more difficult. And I'm starting to see like a style of gameplay this game was going for. More traditional slow platforming with sections of speed. And the more I watch the gameplay of this, the more I understand why this game probably never was gonna release. It feels like they didn't know what they wanted the game to be. It started with possibly 4 characters with different playstyles down to just 1. Then they flip-flopped between what they wanted to even do with Sonic's gameplay until they landed on something that was way too overly complicated for the time, mixing that with an unclear vision and poor management and a person who's holding the game back. This game was doomed from the start. I mean, you have a character named Tiara. How good could this game fucking be? I just have a feeling that if this game released, it would not have gone over well. It probably would have reviewed bad. It would have probably sold worse. It could have even affected future Sonic games. Who knows? For one, I feel like this game has good ideas. It had some potential, but I'm just glad it didn't release. I am glad it didn't release because this could have gone over really badly. But that is basically all of the cool stuff and interesting stuff that I found in Sonic X-Treme and what it could have possibly even looked like if it was released. Thank God it didn't. But if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, turn on notifications, comment down below what you think about Sonic X-Treme. What do you think if the game ever released? And again, once again, thank you all so much for 4,000 subscribers. Y'all are crazy. Like, once I'm thinking like, oh, okay, I'm slowing down, and y'all come out of nowhere with all these subscribers. I'm like, what the fuck? Where did y'all come from? So listen, again, y'all are the best. I won't have this without you guys. I'll never forget that. I hope I never forget that. Without you guys, I don't have a platform. So thank y'all so much. We'll try to get 5,000 by the end of the year, because, you know, we're basically halfway done with the month, but we can push. I feel like we could do it. I have a good feeling about this month. And by the time this video comes out, the talent show has already happened. So I just want to say thank you guys so much to everybody who submitted and participated. I really love doing community stuff with y'all. I remember we did the photo mode contest. That was really fun. And y'all seem like you're having a really good time with this. So again, I like to do this every once in a while. So leave in the comments again if you have like an idea of what you want to do for a new the next time we do this, because I want to take some suggestions from you guys, because maybe I have some cool ideas that I don't have. That's all I gotta say for today. See y'all in the next one.